You know what they say, behind every successful woman is a man who has no idea what's going on. At least, that's what the comments on Elizabeth's Instagram page used to imply. We were the picture of modern perfection. She was glowing in every filtered post, all yoga poses, almond lattes, and deeply thoughtful captions about communication and growth. And me? I played the supportive husband in the background. Not because I had a talent for standing still in linen shirts, though apparently I do, but because I thought we were genuinely happy. Elizabeth was what they call a marriage fluencer, a term I didn't even know existed until I was halfway into being part of her brand. Thousands followed her page, at Ever Afterlives, where she dished out relationship wisdom like she was Oprah with a ring light. Date night ideas, meal plans for couples, even Monday mantras for conflict resolution. It was charming, nauseating, and, I have to admit, wildly profitable. We met at a co-working space downtown. I was bootstrapping a tech startup. She was curating content and drinking overpriced kombucha. She had the kind of confidence that either made you want to marry her or sue her. I chose the former. Marriage came fast. So did the followers. Our wedding was a live-streamed affair with a hashtag. #LoveLikeLiz. I should have known then. The trouble started, or more accurately, surfaced, on a Tuesday. I'd just come home from a run and wandered into the living room, shirtless and sweating like a guy in a deodorant commercial. What I didn't know was that Elizabeth was doing a live Q&A. I walked right into the frame while she was answering a fan-submitted question about how to maintain trust in a relationship. The irony was so thick you could spread it on toast. "Oh, hi babe," she said, trying to keep her voice bubbly. But the look she shot me, panicked, tense, wasn't the look of a loving wife surprised by her husband. It was the look of a woman terrified her side piece was watching. And he was. I only learned his name later. Tyler. Her content manager. If I had to draw him from memory, I'd say he looked like someone who vapes and says vibe check, unironically. The kind of guy who thinks emotional intelligence is a brand of protein powder. After that little livestream fiasco, things spiraled like a season of Real Housewives, but with more drone footage and SEO optimization. I started noticing things, burner accounts following her page, Instagram DMs that magically vanished, comments with heart emojis from accounts that had no profile pictures but suspiciously poetic usernames like at poetry_boi88. I knew something was off, but instead of confronting her, I did what any self-respecting tech nerd with a grudge would do. I launched my own investigation. I bought a drone. Yes, a drone. Elizabeth thought it was for brand storytelling, sweeping shots of us picnicking in coordinated outfits. But while she was busy collabing on couples retreats and writing posts about emotional transparency, I was surveilling our backyard like a low-budget Jason Bourne. That's when I caught her. Tyler. At our house. During what she told me was a collab day. They were in the backyard, brainstorming content. But unless brainstorming now includes thigh-touching and lip-biting, I'm pretty sure they were doing something entirely off-brand. I could have confronted her right then, but I didn't. And here's the twist. You ready? I didn't confront her, because I was using all of this, every drip of drama, every teardrop emoji, every mysterious post, to boost the brand visibility of my own company. Turns out, being the husband of a cheating influencer is amazing for engagement, especially if you lean into it. So that's what I did. I played the part of the bumbling, betrayed husband, clueless, sympathetic, occasionally shirtless in emotional support posts. I let the story unfold in real time, turning our collapsing marriage into a social media saga. Followers skyrocketed. Engagement blew through the roof. Her heartbreak posts went viral. My startup, conveniently soft-launched during all of this, became an overnight success. Everyone loves a reality show, especially when they don't know it's scripted. When I say this turned into a reality show, I'm not exaggerating. We literally became a live drama playing out in the comments section. People were analyzing the look in her eyes in Instagram stories, screenshotting our photos with captions like, "Do you guys feel the coldness between them two?" And the worst part? I started enjoying it. Because the worse things looked online, the more followers I got. Yes, I made my own page. Called it At Modern Widower, slightly tragic, slightly tongue-in-cheek. The bio read, "A man trying to rediscover himself after love. Coffee lover. Meme addict. Advocate for honesty." There, I posted sarcastic thoughts on emotional roller coasters, book reviews on pop psychology, and of course, subtle hints at betrayal. I became the hero, the victim, and the main suspect, all in one account. Followers skyrocketed. Engagements blew up. Her heartbreak posts went viral. And my startup, soft-launched right in the middle of this chaos, became a quiet hit. Everyone loves a good train wreck, especially if it has a filter. But Elizabeth? She acted strange. After the live stream incident, she didn't shut down her account, didn't go private. If anything, she leaned in harder, posting even more authentic stories, motivational reels, and tearful reflections. She turned vulnerability into content like a seasoned crisis PR firm. And that's when things started feeling less like a coincidence. My friend Andrew, a paranoid IT guy with a knack for spotting digital weirdness, texted me, "Your place is being watched. Geotags are off, but still traceable." I laughed at first. Then I noticed something off in the comments. One burner account wrote, "Wasn't that Tyler in your backyard yesterday? New content day." The thing is, I hadn't posted anything, but Tyler had been there. I saw it through my drone. So either it was a lucky guess, or someone was watching too. Then it hit me. I wasn't the only one playing a game. Elizabeth knew. She knew I knew. And she turned it into performance art. We weren't a couple anymore. We were co-producers in a live-action soap opera. A collapsing marriage, co-branded and monetized. And the wild part? I didn't mind. Because while she posted tearful stories about healing through hardship, I quietly promoted my app, a platform for mindful separations, where exes could share their journeys, book therapists, and unlock premium breakup content. A startup that would have tanked without all this drama. But just when I thought I had the upper hand, a letter arrived. Anonymous. Physical. A real envelope. Real handwriting. None of that digital noise. Inside was a flash drive. On it, a video. And not just any video. Tyler. In our bathroom. With Elizabeth. No filters. No captions. No content plan. This wasn't staged. This was betrayal. You'd think a flash drive and an envelope would be outdated by now, but nothing delivers a message quite like analog treachery. I popped it into my laptop, half expecting it to be a prank. Maybe Tyler lip-syncing to a sad pop song in a bathrobe. Something stupid. Nope. It was footage. Real footage. Grainy, time-stamped, and shot from an angle that screamed hidden camera. Tyler, in my bathroom. Shirtless. Elizabeth, in a robe. Laughing. They weren't filming content. They were filming comfort. I watched for about 20 seconds. That was all I needed. My hands curled into fists. I felt my pulse in my teeth. This wasn't part of the show. This wasn't some calculated engagement boost. This was raw, unedited betrayal, and someone out there knew about it. More than that, someone wanted me to know. So I did what any rational man would do when his reality show turns into a thriller. I made popcorn. No, seriously. Because if this was going off the rails, I was going to enjoy the ride. But I also knew this wasn't the work of a troll. Whoever sent the footage had access. Someone close. I started running through possibilities. Tyler? Doubtful. He was too stupid to cover his tracks that well. Elizabeth? No, she was good at spin, but she wouldn't self-sabotage this cleanly. Then it hit me. Our intern, Lila. She was sharp, social media savvy, low-key brilliant, and had that unnerving habit of being in the background of every situation. I once joked she was like wallpaper, pretty, quiet, and always watching. Apparently, the wallpaper had ears. I sent her a text, lunch tomorrow. Just you and me. Her reply came instantly. Thought you'd never ask. The next day, we sat across from each other at a minimalist cafe that only served food you couldn't pronounce on the first try. I went straight to the point. You sent it. Lila didn't even flinch. Just raised an eyebrow and sipped her oat milk something or other. I might have, she said. Why? She smiled. Because I hate hypocrisy. And I like good stories. You realize this could implode everything. She nodded. Exactly. That's the only way to make it real. I sat back. This was no intern. This was a chaos artist. A saboteur. A fan of truth bombs wrapped in bow ties. So what now? I asked. She leaned forward. Now? You go full meta. You lean in. You post the story. You become the narrative. You want me to leak my own betrayal? I want you to monetize it. You've got the sympathy. Now sell the strength. I stared at her. The worst part? She was right. Elizabeth was posting yoga poses and healing crystals. Tyler was nowhere to be seen. The audience was craving the next plot twist, the rise of the betrayed. And me? I had the footage. I had the truth. I had the damn popcorn. I uploaded the video, not the bathroom part. I'm not a psycho, but just a still frame. Tyler's shirt on my sink. Elizabeth's robe on my floor. Caption: sometimes, the hardest part isn't the betrayal. It's realizing you were the content, not the connection. In 1 hour, 12K likes. 2K comments. Messages pouring in. Brand offers. Podcasts. Hell, a men's razor company wanted to sponsor a clean break campaign. Turns out, heartbreak sells better than romance. After my post went viral, I figured I'd enjoy a few days of smug silence while Elizabeth scrambled for damage control. Maybe she'd ghost the platform for a bit, issue a vague, healing and private story with a pastel background, and disappear behind her vision board. Wrong. She came back swinging. The next morning, her followers woke up to a 12-minute IGTV confessional, a soft-lit, piano-scored monologue titled, My Truth. The opening frame? Her staring directly into the camera. No makeup. Wearing my old hoodie, the emotional manipulation equivalent of bringing a puppy to a court hearing. I know many of you have questions, she began, voice trembling in a way that was somehow still camera-aware. And I owe it to this community, the one we built together, to speak my truth. She spoke about betrayal, about feeling unseen, about how sometimes people grow in different directions, and that growth hurts. She even dropped the word emotional abuse in passing, vague enough not to be legally actionable, but spicy enough to set her comments section ablaze. I sat there watching the video on mute, reading the captions like a man following court transcripts from a trial he didn't know he was part of. And the best part? She never said my name. Not once. Just he, and my partner, and the person I used to share my heart with. It was genius. She turned me into a faceless villain, the algorithm's favorite kind. But here's where it got messy. Tyler posted a reel later that day, shirtless, in a hammock, holding a copy of the 4 Agreements. His caption? When you live your truth, no one can use it against you. Hashtag authenticity wins. I almost threw my phone into a blender, but I didn't, because I had an idea. If they wanted war, I'd give them content. That night, I posted a 2-minute video called How to Spot a Gaslighter in Yoga Pants. It was petty. It was passive-aggressive. It was wildly shareable. I used stock footage of fire festivals, scenes from romantic comedies, and even one of Elizabeth's old posts where she said, "You can't heal in the same place that broke you," and then superimposed the word loading over her face. By morning, it had 50,000 views. We were no longer a couple. We were rival influencers in a public divorce, and the internet was loving every second. Our DMs? Exploding. Brands reached out wanting collaborations. A podcast host messaged me, "Want to come on and talk about conscious uncoupling?" A candle company offered to name a sin after me, Smoke Trust. But then came the final twist of the week. Elizabeth scheduled a live reconciliation session, a stream where she'd answer questions, live, about her journey, her healing, and me. I RSVP'd. With a burner account. And I had questions. The moment Elizabeth announced her live reconciliation session, I knew she was setting the stage for a public spectacle. She framed it as a heartfelt Q&A to address our recent turmoil, but I recognized it for what it was, a calculated move to reclaim her narrative and audience sympathy. Everything about it screamed branding opportunity. The title? Healing in Real Time. The promo post featured her sitting cross-legged in a beam of morning light, holding a cup of tea like it contained all the answers. Let's talk about love, loss, and finding our way back to ourselves, the caption read. It had more filters than a Paris Instagram model. This wasn't damage control. This was strategy. Spirituality rebranded for engagement. I decided to attend, albeit incognito. There was no way I'd let my real name appear in the viewer list like some passive participant. I created a burner account. Profile pic, a tree. Username at growth_through_discomfort. It sounded vague enough to be credible. The live session launched at exactly 7 p.m. Soft lighting. Ambient piano music. Elizabeth's perfectly dewy face filled the screen. She wore one of my old hoodies, the one I always wore during lazy Sunday binge sessions. That wasn't a coincidence. That was a prop. "Hi everyone," she said, her voice calm and soothing. "Thank you for showing up. For being open, vulnerable, real." She folded her hands in front of her like she was about to deliver the tenets of a new spiritual order. "This has been a difficult time. I won't lie. I've been heartbroken, disoriented, and yes, humbled." Cue a flurry of heart emojis in the chat. She delivered her soliloquy in perfectly modulated tones. Talked about betrayal, growth, and how sometimes love changes form. She said she had to learn to mother herself. I nearly choked on my drink. Then came the questions from viewers. Have you forgiven him? She paused like an actor letting the audience sit in the tension. I am learning to forgive. Not just him, but myself. For ignoring red flags. For betraying my own boundaries. A yes or no? Not in Elizabeth's universe. Everything had to be a TED Talk. I waited for the right moment, then typed. Do you believe your actions align with the values you promote? She saw it. I know she did. Her eyes lingered, ever so briefly. Another pause. Deep breath. Well, that's a powerful question, she said, biting her lip for added drama. You know, it's easy to share values when life is calm. But it's in chaos and unraveling that we truly see where we stand. Then came the buzzwords. Shadow work. Inner child. Authenticity. The retreat leader was in full swing. No mention of Tyler. No mention of the affair. Just spiritual detours and careful omissions. Out of nowhere, someone sent a $50 donation with a message. Your strength inspires me. Elizabeth teared up. I didn't expect that, she whispered. Sure you didn't. She wrapped up the session with a hopeful smile and a final line. Whatever you're going through, please know you're not alone. We are all healing. Together. Screen faded to black. Applause echoed in emojis. Even after the stream ended, comments kept rolling in. I sat there in the dark, lit only by my screen, fist clenched. I hadn't expected to feel angry. I thought I was past all that. But watching her perform a revised history, where I was the one who left her emotionally adrift, where she was just a poor soul seeking connection, lit a fire in me. No, I wasn't going to fight back. I was going to perform back. The next morning, I staged my own broadcast. Office background. Books arranged just messy enough to feel real. Lighting warm. A mug with a quote. Truth is a quiet lion. I stared into the lens. Hi. If you know me, you know I don't normally do this. But I've been watching a lot of stories unfold lately, my story, actually, and I thought maybe it was time to share my side. No anger. No accusations. Just a calm recounting of betrayal. Of waking up one day and realizing your life was curated content for someone else's feed. I closed with this. Whatever you're healing from, make sure it's not someone else's lie. Uploaded. Posted. Waited. The response was immediate. My comments section lit up. Some people were furious on my behalf. Some skeptical. Others just entertained. But it didn't stop there. Podcast invites. Interview requests. Even a therapist influencer slid into my DMs with a collaboration idea. How men heal. Within 48 hours, the algorithm picked sides. Mine. Then, something I hadn't planned. A journalist reached out. She'd been following the entire saga. She said she had receipts, screenshots of DMs, deleted messages from Elizabeth and Tyler. We agreed to meet. What she showed me, it didn't just change the game. It flipped the whole board. And suddenly, I wasn't just the betrayed husband anymore. I was holding the script to the next act. We met at a quiet cafe tucked away from the main drag, the kind of place where the pastries are overpriced and the staff act like you're lucky to be served. It was neutral territory, safe, obscure, and devoid of curious eyes. The journalist, who introduced herself as Brooke, arrived precisely at noon. No small talk. No latte art appreciation. Just business. She slid a manila envelope across the table like we were in some Cold War spy movie. Inside? Screenshots. Dozens of them. DMs from Tyler, dated weeks before our infamous live stream debacle. Deleted Instagram messages. Photos never posted, captions never used. Drafts of coordinated releases. Hashtags. Calendars. And the crown jewel? A shared Google Doc titled, Recovery Narrative Strategy. They planned it, Brooks said, sipping a bitter espresso. From the backlash to the bounce back. Even your supposed breakdown? Elizabeth suggested how to time it. I stared at the printouts, absorbing each one like they were subpoenas for my dignity. How did you get these? She smirked. Let's just say someone on the inside doesn't like how things went down. I didn't ask who. I already knew. Lila. The intern. The chaos artist. Of course, she'd flipped the table. Back home, I pored over every detail. Elizabeth and Tyler had crafted a playbook. First, a brief silence after the reveal. Then, coordinated sorrow. Cryptic quotes. Mutual unfollowing. He'd go private. She'd go public. Then a tease of forgiveness. She'd cry. He'd post gratitude. But the most damning part? There was a section titled, Daniel's Role. I wasn't just the victim. I was a character. Someone to be outgrown. The old version of her life. The cocoon before the butterfly. They'd written lines for me, not literally, but implied in tone. I was to become the bitter ex, the brooding relic, the reason she had to evolve. I laughed. A hard, low sound. If they wanted a villain, they could have one, but not the one they wrote. I didn't sleep much that week. I started sketching out my own plan, not just for payback, but for exposure. I didn't want revenge. I wanted the truth on stage, with spotlights and applause. Step 1. Control the narrative. I reached out to a documentary producer I'd once met at a tech event. She owed me a favor. I pitched the idea, an influencer couple whose picture-perfect life unravels in real time, revealing the machinery behind curated happiness. She loved it. Step 2. Bait the trap. I posted a video. Calm. Me in a chair. No music. Just words. What if the people you trust most are writing scripts for your downfall? What if the brand you help build becomes the tool used to erase you? It ended with a link, a site titled, Influenced, the real story with a countdown. The internet, predictably, went nuts. It didn't take long. Elizabeth responded with her own post, a long caption under a photo of her holding sage and staring into the distance. Some people want to control the story instead of owning their truth. I won't engage in negativity. I'll keep healing. I didn't reply. That would come later. Instead, I kept feeding the fire. I shared clips of her pre-filmed content juxtaposed with leaked strategy notes. I blurred names. I left room for doubt, but not enough to save her. The day the site launched, traffic crashed it twice. The documentary trailer dropped at noon. It featured clips of us in happier times, Elizabeth's old voiceovers about authentic connection, layered against recent footage of our truth journey. Brooke had helped me compile it. She wanted the exclusive. We gave it to her. The story went viral. National outlets picked it up. Opinion pieces ran with headlines like, "Can love survive the algorithm? When your spouse is your brand." Elizabeth posted a reel of her crying in a forest. Tyler vanished from social media entirely. I wasn't interested in destroying Elizabeth. I just wanted to reclaim my voice. And maybe, for once, be the one holding the camera. I didn't expect her to reach out. 3 days after Tyler's apology post, my inbox pinged with a message that didn't come from a burner account, a PR rep, or a third cousin's vague checking-in DM. No, this one was from her. Direct. Unfiltered. Subject line, "One last conversation?" The message itself was short. Just a sentence. I think we owe it to the people who followed us to finish the story. Live. Together. No emojis. No hashtags. Just that. Part of me laughed. Another part wanted to throw the laptop out the window. She was pitching our final showdown like it was a podcast episode, previously on our perfect collapse. But after I let the rage simmer down, I started thinking. Hard. Because here's the truth. People did want closure. The comments, the emails, the reaction videos, all of it was circling one question. How does it end? And I realized. I could control the ending. Not through silence. Not through more cryptic reels or vague tweets. But by giving the audience what they'd stayed for. Truth. Conflict. And maybe, just maybe, grace. So I replied. I'm in. But on one condition, it's live. No cuts. No filters. One take. She agreed. Date set. Time scheduled. Promo graphics already in the works. Because of course she had a Canva template ready. The week leading up to the broadcast felt like the final days before a courtroom verdict, except the courtroom was Instagram, and the jury was wearing sweatpants and holding iced coffee. People speculated nonstop. TikTokers predicted everything from a reconciliatory kiss to me flipping the table midstream. There were bets. There were side memes. One user even animated us as Sims characters and played out the finale complete with dramatic music and a house fire. Every notification drained me a little more. But I stuck to my prep. No scripts. No bullet points. Just clarity. Just the facts. Just me, stripped of bitterness, rehearsed sarcasm, and the armor of irony I'd been hiding behind since part 1 of this saga. When the clock hit 7 p.m., I was already seated. We had agreed to neutral territory, a shared screen split down the middle, each of us in our own corners. The visual metaphor wasn't lost on anyone. Elizabeth looked polished, of course, subtle makeup, a tasteful sweater, that same spiritual glow she always used to deploy like a shield. I, on the other hand, wore a plain tee and brought exactly one prop, a printed photo from our wedding, folded in half. We didn't greet each other. We didn't smile. The viewer count shot past 80,000 in under 90 seconds. And then she spoke. Thank you all for being here. This isn't easy, but it's necessary. She looked into the camera like she was looking into a mirror. Then silence. She turned to me. You can go first. I nodded, took a breath, and began. I spoke slowly, calmly. I didn't bring up the cheating, not at first. I spoke about confusion, about how easy it is to become strangers in your own home, about the way silence creeps into a marriage like mold, slow, invisible, and toxic. Then I unfolded the wedding photo. This, I said, holding it up, was not just a day. It was a promise, a public one. And breaking that promise, however softly, however spiritually aligned, still leaves wreckage. She didn't interrupt. To her credit, she let me finish. Then she began. And to my surprise, she didn't pivot to audience therapy. She didn't quote Rumi. She didn't drop words like vibration or divine masculine. She just talked about loneliness, about ambition, about how it felt to become a character in her own life. I didn't cheat because I wanted something better, she said. I cheated because I forgot who I was when I wasn't being watched. And in that moment, for the first time in months, I believed her. We opened the floor. Just for 10 minutes. Audience questions, unfiltered. Most were predictable. Do you regret it? Would you do anything differently? Are you seeing someone now? But one cut deeper. It came from a username I didn't recognize at Dad's left to. If you had no audience, would you still have left him? Elizabeth blinked, then whispered. Yes. That landed like a stone. And I realized something right then. Maybe the worst part of betrayal isn't the act. It's the certainty, the knowing. When someone says it out loud, you lose the ability to pretend. She would have left even if no one was watching. And that was enough. We ended the stream in silence. No farewell post. No group hug. No lessons. Just an empty screen, fading to black. After the broadcast, everything quieted. People called it powerful, honest, devastating. The brand stopped emailing. The memes got less funny. And slowly, blessedly, the internet moved on. Elizabeth took a break. Deleted all but 3 posts on her account. The last one was a photo of a sunrise with the caption, "Rebuilding. Brick by brick." Tyler? Gone. Last I heard, he was managing a co-working space in Austin. As for me, I launched a newsletter. Real talk for real people. No drama. No edits. Just thoughts from a guy who got wrecked and rebuilt. Slowly, on his terms. The follower count dropped. Engagement plummeted. And I'd never been happier. I didn't decide to get revenge right away. It started as a thought. Small. Quiet. The kind of idea that shows up when you're washing dishes or folding laundry, the places where grudges go to ferment. It wasn't rage. I wasn't plotting to ruin her career or humiliate her. It was something colder. Cleaner. I wanted the truth to outlive the spectacle. I wanted to rewrite the final chapter, not in a live stream, not in a vague caption, but in a way that would stick, that couldn't be spun or deleted. And I knew exactly how to do it. I'd spent enough time in the background of Elizabeth's life to learn the moves. I knew her angles, lighting, phrasing, even when she paused for emotional impact. I'd watched her build a narrative empire out of faux authenticity. She didn't lie outright. She told selective truths, curated emotions, trimmed her guilt until it could fit into a hashtag. So I decided to play her game. But I'd be the one writing the rules this time. First, I went quiet. No cryptic posts. No reaction videos. I let the internet think I was processing, healing, retreating. Meanwhile, I started collecting. Screenshots. Audio messages. Deleted posts I had archived, because yes, I'd saved them. Even her old captions, where she'd reframe our arguments as spiritual awakenings, or turn my silences into signs of toxic masculinity. It wasn't about exposing her flaws. It was about revealing the system, the framework, the way personal lives became performance, how people like Elizabeth used vulnerability as a ladder and her followers mistook packaging for pain. I started scripting. Not a rant, not a roast. A story. My story. I wasn't the good guy. I'd said that already. But I was the guy who got out. And if I told it right, not just the betrayal, but how we both made our marriage a stage, maybe someone else would see their own reflection in it. Maybe they'd stop buying what people like her were selling. I contacted a friend from college, Jules, who now worked as a documentary editor. I pitched the concept, a short-form docuseries about the blurred lines between content creation and emotional manipulation in influencer couples. I didn't even have to name names. She said, "You're not the first one to pitch this, but you might be the first one with receipts." We began building it under the working title, Filtered, The Business of Love. I brought in voice memos, screen recordings, even that infamous live stream where I wandered shirtless into her Q&A and watched her panic. Jules loved it. Called it pure cinema. I called it Tuesday. I reached out to other people too, friends who'd been featured on her page without knowing, acquaintances who'd been ghosted after one too many collaborative brunches. They talked. Some hesitantly. Some with relief. Apparently, my breakup had opened the floodgates. Meanwhile, I messaged Elizabeth. I framed it carefully, then thinking, maybe we should do one last piece together. Something honest. Unfiltered. For closure. For the people. She took the bait. Her reply was almost immediate. Yes. I think that would be healing. Raw is powerful. I told her we'd shoot it remotely. Said it was a reflective conversation, two people revisiting their shared story. She suggested a few lighting tips. Of course she did. She never asked if it would be edited. She assumed it would be like all her projects. Smooth, sympathetic, tightly controlled. What she didn't know was that I'd already filmed my portion. My interview was done, framed with no soft filters. Just me, a chair, and my version of what happened, not just the cheating, but how she'd built a brand on our lives while quietly rewriting both of us into caricatures. I spoke about the time she staged a fight so she could post a reconciliation reel. The time she told me to wait until tomorrow before reacting to a betrayal, because Mondays perform better for vulnerability. The time she said, I need you to be a little more distant. People love the brooding ones. And yes, I spoke about the affair. Not salaciously. Just plainly. I described what it felt like to be slowly replaced by someone who knew how to hold a ring light but not a relationship. I wrapped the shoot with a single line. I don't need to make you look bad. You already filmed the footage. Jules almost applauded. We spent weeks editing. Not because we were altering the story, but because we were trimming the noise. No music. No dramatics. Just timestamps, images, and uncomfortable silence. We planned the release for a Sunday evening prime scroll time. No press. No teaser. Just a single post, a still frame of me and Elizabeth sitting in our respective chairs, split screen, captioned. When the marriage ends, but the content keeps going. The night we launched the video, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt calm. That kind of calm you get before a storm breaks, not because you're ready for the chaos, but because you've already seen it in your mind 100 times. I knew what I was about to do. I knew how it would land. I didn't need a prediction algorithm to tell me this one would burn. The post went live at 8:03 p.m. No teaser. No explanation. Just the thumbnail, Elizabeth and I split across the frame, facing forward, not looking at each other. Caption. Filtered. The Business of Love. Full story. No hashtags. No mentions. No bait. It didn't need it. The first hour was silence. Then murmurs. Then the wave. Text started coming in from friends, dude, and holy sh*t, and you really did it. Jules called just to say, refresh Twitter. Trending topic within 3 hours. Hashtag filtered truth. People didn't just watch, they studied. Paused. Rewound. Screen recorded. Elizabeth's followers were the first to turn. Not cruelly, just decisively. The performance was over, and now they could see the strings. I didn't speak. I didn't post. I let the video talk. In it, I never raised my voice. Never insulted. I told the story exactly as it happened, the facade of intimacy, the branding of private moments, the emotional scripting. I showed screenshots, clips, deleted captions, all timestamped, unedited. And then came the receipts. Messages where she coordinated emotions for maximum engagement. Her voice in a memo saying, can you just hold that face a bit longer? It'll look more sincere. Footage of her crying and then asking to redo the angle. It wasn't rage. It was evidence. It was math. She posted a response 2 days later. A pale, deflated story slide. I'm taking time offline. Thank you for your grace. The comments weren't cruel, but they weren't buying it either. Her brand contracts quietly disappeared. 1 week later, she closed the account. Not rebranded. Not pivoted. Closed. Gone. The silence was the loudest thing she ever posted. And me? I didn't celebrate publicly. No gotcha moment. No flex. That wasn't the point. I did get calls. Invitations. Podcast requests. Media interest. Would you speak about emotional manipulation and digital intimacy? Can we quote your film in our media ethics series? One offer came from a university media department wanting to use the documentary in a course. I declined most of them. Not because I wasn't proud. I was. But because I didn't want this to be my new brand. The guy who got revenge. I wasn't selling catharsis. I had nothing left to market. But the part that meant something? Quiet emails. DMs from strangers. People saying they recognized themselves in me, in her, in the cycle. One message stood out. Thank you. I left someone because of this. Because I saw what I hadn't been able to say out loud. That's when I knew it worked. Not just the video. The whole thing. The restraint. The patience. The truth. I'd spent so long trying to make sense of what happened to me, what she'd done, what I'd ignored. I thought revenge would feel like a win. But it didn't. It felt like closure. It felt like turning off a light. Jules called again, weeks later. So what now? Are you finally done? And for the first time, I could say, yeah, I think I am. I didn't expect peace to feel so plain. No fireworks. No swelling music. No final Instagram post with a minimalist quote about healing. Just mornings where I could hear my own thoughts, and no one asking me to turn them into content. After the video dropped, and the dust settled, I let everything go. Not metaphorically, I literally deleted it all. The burner accounts. The backup folders. The curated archive of our life, complete with timestamps and metadata. The story had been told, and I didn't want to live in it anymore. People still tried to pull me back in. A producer emailed me. We'd love to adapt your story for a limited series. Think The Crown meets you. I declined. I wasn't trying to extend the narrative. I was trying to end it. And I did. I sold the condo, the one with perfect natural lighting that Elizabeth used to brag about. I didn't even list it online. A friend of a friend bought it. I left the ring light in the closet. I moved to a small house near the coast. Not some poetic oceanfront property with dramatic views. Just quiet. A porch. A dog I adopted from a rescue called Mitch. She's missing part of her tail and doesn't care what anyone thinks of her. We get along great. Most of my days now are spent offline. Not in some performative digital detox kind of way. Just offline. I read actual books. I talk to people with my actual voice. I go on walks without tracking my steps. I eat breakfast without photographing it. Sometimes, I get recognized. People whisper, "That's him." A few come up to me. Most don't. One time, a woman in a bookstore handed me a note folded in half. It said, "You said what I never could. Thank you." That one I kept. I also hear from my daughters more often now. They were quiet during the whole saga, watching, thinking, processing. One of them texted after the documentary and said, "Took me a minute, but I get it now. You didn't just tell your truth. You stopped letting someone else tell it for you." That hit harder than any viral applause. Elizabeth never reached out again. Last I heard, she moved abroad. Quietly. No comeback arc. No podcast. No TED Talk. Just vanished. Maybe she's healing. Maybe she's rebranding. Either way, it's no longer my story to follow. And then, there's her. We met at a farmer's market. I was buying tomatoes. She asked me which ones were best for roasting. I told her I didn't know, but I always picked the ones that looked like they'd been through something. She laughed. Not in a flirty way. In a real way. Like it came from her stomach, not her strategy. She doesn't do social media. Has an email address that still ends in .net. Thinks influencers are a type of fungus. I love her for that. We talk. Really talk. And I never feel like I need to rehearse what I'm going to say. No, this isn't the part where we get engaged or move in together or start a couple's channel. There's no ring, no montage, no epilogue. Just two people learning to exist quietly in a world that never stops shouting. I think that's enough. Maybe more than enough. The last thing I'll say? If you ever find yourself becoming content in someone else's life, get out. Not with anger. With intention. And don't look back for applause. Look forward for silence. That's where I found myself. And for the first time in a long time, I like the view.